Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Tiffany, chiropractor and holistic health and life coach. Let's talk about the American Heart Association. Recently, the American Heart Association went and met before the Texas government, and they asked for something that doesn't make sense, and it was actually quite oxymoronic in nature. So before we talk about that, let's talk about who the American Heart Association is. So the American Heart Association provides all of your literature, scientific information, and overall health and wellness regarding everything heart. So if you've ever been to the doctor and your doctor has maybe given you a pamphlet or a sheet of paper just with basic heart information or talking to you about heart disease, the information on that paper came from the American Heart Association 9 times out of 10. So these are sources that we are supposed to trust, quote unquote, right? Because on the surface, it appears as though they are for the health and well-being of all people. Well, as I've said before, you really have to take a deeper look into these corporations because 9 times out of 10, they aren't looking out for the best interests of the consumer and the American people, because they are commonly and oftentimes tied to pharmaceutical companies who provide them with the resources and the money to do their research. And as a result of that, they push invalid information to keep the population in a state of dis-ease, which we know leads to disease. So the American Heart Association on the surface appears to be a trustworthy source. Well, we know now that that is not true, and I will definitely add the link to the article in the description box. I have some notes regarding the article and information, so you will see me reference that. But just to kind of touch on this a little bit and explain why they aren't a trusted source, I was able to find an article regarding a meeting that took place last week with the Texas government and a lobbyist for the American Heart Association. So the lobbyists are typically the people who go before the government and they're giving their stance in terms of why something should or shouldn't be passed, right? And remember, this is supposed to be the association that focuses on heart health. Well, the lobbyists asked for soda, sweets, and candy to be excluded from the list of banned foods for SNAP participants. And you may ask yourself, well, why would they want that excluded? And that's a great question. Considering the fact that 20% of kids and 42% of adults are obese, why would they want to continue to allow people to buy something that's not good for them? And of course, we can go back and forth and say, well, the people should be able to buy whatever they want to buy. And yes, that is true. All of this is true. But they aren't asking for everyone to be exempt from this ban. They're asking for the people who actually need the help and need the resources. And oftentimes, those people are also the people who struggle with their health more so than others. Soda is the most commonly purchased item with the SNAP benefits. So people that use food stamps purchase more soda than anything else. So if they're drinking a lot of soda, what does that tell you about their health and well-being overall? If we're just looking at health, nothing else, we know that sugary beverages cause diabetes, health issues, heart issues, and several other issues, right? It's just something that's not good for you overall. Sugar is a drug and it can kill you. It also causes cancer, right? So if you are promoting items that have a large amount of sugar in them, why are you doing so? We know that the SNAP benefit program typically pays about $124 billion per year to participants, right? So that's a lot of money to be focused on one area and providing resources to one specific group of people. With regard to SNAP in relation to, let's just say, Medicaid and Medicare, typically the people that are on SNAP are also on Medicaid and Medicare. So they want to keep the people sick and continue to have them see their PCPs or their doctors or receive treatments. And all of this goes back to them being able to fatten their pockets, right? So Walmart also joined in opposing this lobbyist with regard to excluding the items from the ban list. Now, since this information has been made public, the AHA has since retracted this statement, and they are calling it an error, which is kind of hard to believe, because when the lobbyists are able to go before government officials, they have to have notes, they have to have information, right, to be able to prove their case in terms of why they want something to be passed or something to be thrown out. So this lobbyist created a full report, did their research, and was an advocate for having these foods removed from the ban list, and now they're saying that that's not true. So you have to ask yourself, well, why did all of this happen? Well, the first answer is they want to continue to keep people sick, because a healthy person is no longer a paying patient, whether it's private insurance, public insurance, Medicaid, or Medicare. When you're healthy, healed, and whole, they don't make a profit off of you. And you may say, well, how does the American Heart Association profit off of us? I'm glad you asked. Well, the American Heart Association, or the AHA, receives funding from Walmart, which partnered with them, also Pfizer, which is a pharmaceutical company, and Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk are responsible for making the drug Ozempic. So they're the pharmaceutical company that made Ozempic. So if the AHA goes against the policies that continue to promote health and wellness, guess what happens? They'll lose their funding. And that's not something that they want to do. So they are going to go before the government and say, hey, I know we're the AHA and we are supposed to stand for health and wellness, but we have to keep the money coming in. So we're going to ask that you have these items taken off of the ban list. Pepsi also pays to be a part of their nutrition forum. So they have a nutrition forum where they provide this information. They probably have conferences or whatever they do to host these forums and these meetings, right? And Pepsi pays to be a part of that. Keep in mind, soda is the most purchased product with the SNAP benefits. So with Pepsi paying to be a part of their forum, they want, again, to keep the money coming in, and they don't want to lose their funding, right, for standing up what's right. So there is a morality issue here, and we all know that. We've talked about the issues with the big corporations and how they want to fatten their pockets. So we as consumers suffer if we don't know any better, which is why I am here to tell you the truth, explain to you how it applies to you, and hopefully you're able to make an educated decision and do what's best for the health and well-being of not only you, but also your family. Because these associations are not telling you the truth. None of them are telling the truth, right? The American Heart Association, the Diabetes Association, 9 times out of 10, they are receiving funding from these companies. And in order to keep the money coming in, they have to, right, be willing to do what it takes to keep the people sick. And this is also the same thing with government in a sense as well. A lot of the politicians receive very big donations for the from the pharmaceutical companies. And as a result of that, when and if they are elected, right, they have promised to continue to push the policies, to continue to push the drugs, right? So all of these factors combined are what keep the people sick. There is no reason why 42% of adults and 20% of children are obese. And that's not a coincidence, right? Think about when you go into the grocery store. Most of the entire store is stocked with processed foods and unhealthy foods. And the foods that are supposed to be healthy, i.e. the fruits and vegetables and meat, right? We don't exactly know if that's healthy either, because we don't know what they are spraying on the food to make it grow faster or to make it bigger, right? We're not aware. We can hope that when we purchase something that says organic, that it is truly organic, but we don't know. And this is not to instill fear, it's to make you aware, right? Which is why we're supposed to pray and also just do our part. But with regard to these associations, please do not trust what they say, right? Take the time to read the literature, see where it's coming from, and Google and find out who these associations are backed by. Because 9 times out of 10, if it's a big association, they are backed by a company who doesn't want you to be healthy. And your health is your wealth, right? Without it, you have nothing. And we don't want to totally eliminate all the bad things, right? We want to eat in moderation, more good than bad. And we also don't want to police people and tell them what they should and should not be doing. But when you are lobbying to keep certain items on the list that you know are detrimental to the health and well-being of the population, that's a problem, right? Because we know that they already are at a disadvantage. So why would you continue to push the agenda of keep kicking them while they're down and keeping them down due to making these foods readily available, instead of maybe limiting them or make a public ban for everyone? We don't want to target a specific audience, whether it's food, clothing, shelter, resources, whatever it is. We want fairness across the board. And the people who aren't in a position to purchase the healthier things, we definitely don't want to continue to push the unhealthy things, because that keeps them in a state of dis-ease, which we know leads to disease, right? So it's just being intentional about reading and making the best decision for you and your family. And when you're reading, make sure that the information that you're reading is true, is fair, and it is from a reputable source, most importantly. So I hope that this video provided you with some knowledge. And again, I will add the link to the description box for you to read the article for yourself. But at the end of the day, we have to be willing to stand up for what's right and stand up against these associations and corporations that are doing everything that they can to keep us sick. and keep us bound. Until next time, heal holistically, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.